Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, February 12th. This is the Workday Morning Show. I am your host, Tony Gilfillan, and we're going to jump right into it. So I did see that Opus 6 was released last week, but I did miss the new Agent Teams feature that came out with that release. And I think that's a little bit more compelling than Opus 6. I know Opus 4.6 has, a variety of things that it's doing better than the last model. But that's nothing new. I mean, they wouldn't release a new version if it wasn't doing anything better. But this new Agent Teams thing is what I was really interested in. And the big thing there is kind of the change in mindset with these new LLMs and how your workflow with these IDEs actually works. And a lot of people are still using them as just kind of Google tools, and that's really not how you should be using LLMs these days, and especially like the coding LLMs. They're getting a lot smarter. They're getting a lot easier to use. They're being able to do a lot more, and then these agent teams are going to really enable a different type of flow when it comes to building stuff on these vibe coding tools. So the big difference between an agent team and then just a regular old agent is that it's able to effectively spin off additional agents to do multiple tasks at the same time in parallel. And another differentiator between agent teams and sub-agents, because sub-agents are not a new idea, and frankly neither is agent teams. Agent teams has really got blown up a lot recently with, OpenClaw, Claude Code, Clawbot, whatever you want to call it these days, is effectively an agent of agents. So an agent that is controlling multiple other agents that can talk to each other. So that's what an agent team is. Another word for it is agent swarms. And then the big differentiator between the agent teams and the sub agents is that these sub agents weren't actually talking to each other. And that's the big differentiator. So these agent teams, OpenClaw does the same thing where they're actually able to communicate between each other. So these team members that you're creating is actually like a development team. So it's a team of, specialized agents that are doing specific jobs. So you have, a QA agent, you have a research agent, you have a development agent, you have a code reviewer, the ones that are, debugging code. So they're all doing very specific, narrowed scope tasks, and then they can speak to each other when they need clarification. So this is really interesting to me because this is kind of the road that I've been trying to go down. I don't personally want to use OpenClaw. I haven't installed it. I have been following it pretty closely, but I am pretty hesitant to actually use OpenClaw because of security concerns there. Like, so you see all over the internet right now, like it's leaking your API keys and your personal information and all that. Like, if you open up access to these bots to essentially control your computer, control your email, control your web browser, like it's just a security analyst nightmare, essentially. And I don't want to effectively use an open source tool that other people are putting skills into, and those skills are well known to be malicious at this point. Not all of them, just the malicious actors are putting in skills that can farm your data. That's the last thing I want. So I've been trying to essentially not necessarily rebuild OpenClaw, but I want to rethink the way I am doing development and utilizing these tools in a way that is effective and safe and can effectively do this agent team thing. And with Claude Code actually releasing this feature within the Claude Code IDE in its own right, effectively I'll be able to do that without creating a tool myself to do it. I have done a couple other tools that effectively put a wrapper around the CLI for Claude Code and Cursor, and then I can interact with that CLI via Slack. So I've enjoyed that, as well as pretty simple terminal connections. So the easiest way to remotely control, that I've found anyway, is to just create up an SSH tunnel between your phone and your and whatever PC you're running your IDEs on. I've found that pretty helpful, because you can just essentially use a terminal on your phone that's actually being run on your PC or your laptop or wherever you're running it. This will probably be the next step that I do, is getting an actual agent team up and running on my local machine, and then I can interact with it from my phone using that same SSH tunnel. Again, this all runs off of terminals that Claude Code runs in, so definitely interested in getting this up and running. I was kind of piddling through this morning. Seems relatively easy to set up. You essentially can create a plan, create different the OpenClaw has SOL documents that kind of define the users that your agent team uses, where this one does very similar things. You're defining your agent teams, you're defining the context and how they interact. And again, it can still spin up subagents. Subagents are great for work that essentially don't need to communicate with other agents. So there's still definitely a use for subagents, and I'm sure the agent teams are using subagents as well underneath the sheets. So I'll definitely be playing with this. But the big question I did want to answer today is, how fast can you go from an idea to a proof of concept today? And the answer is really, really quick. Just yesterday, we were talking to my Cursor agent, essentially creating a quick plan, and it was very quick. Obviously, we did it in half an hour, and it spun up, a relatively decent document for planning out the architecture of this hackathon app that I was essentially planning out. So it's a Python Flask app backend that can tie into I'm going to tie it into the Workday data to handle my tickets and hacker data. So my source of truth for all my users is actually going to come from Workday. And then my front end is going to be a simple React front end. And then that's where chatting is going to happen, as well as ticketing for a hackathon. Then my backend database is going to be Postgres, and we'll deploy this onto Render. And it actually created me a nice little YAML file that will make deploying to Render quite seamless. So all you really got to do when you have a YAML file is just upload it to Render, and it's able to kind of recognize the packages that you'll need based off of requirements text, how to run it, where to run it, a bunch of other things that you can define, that it has defined for me in the YAML, but it kind of makes, again, that continuous integration and deployment very simple. So what it did create, I kind of been sifting through it this morning, and it did spin up for me. It installed the packages, created the local server, created a test admin users that I can log in with, and then this is kind of what it looks like. It's obviously a little rough around the edges because it built in a couple minutes after prompting to create this thing really quickly. So it's definitely going to take quite a bit of iteration to actually get all these features up to snuff when it comes to actually utilizing this. But when it comes to proof of concept, this is basically that. It's just a wireframe of what I'm trying to create. Doesn't look exactly pretty, doesn't function probably at all. I guess we can kind of fill around with the actual functionality. So I have a simple dashboard when you log in. This is, I'm assuming, the tickets. So all you can see here is open tickets and active tickets. You can go to a ticket dashboard. Let's see if I can create a ticket. That's a priority for me. So I can create tickets. That's definitely good to see. Can I actually assign it to myself? But it realizes I have users. It realizes I can assign them to a location, which would be the table number within the hackathon. Let's see, there's a chat function. Probably doesn't function very much. Can I create rooms? No. I was gonna say, if this actually functions. Wait. So I was able to send a test message to a room, maybe? I'm not 100% sure where this is actually sending any messages. Interesting. There is some form of chat here. It doesn't really work yet. Obviously, this will need to be, heavily iterated on to create an actual chat functionality. This leaderboard, this is essentially who closes the most tickets. I actually action any of these tickets? I think I can. So the leaderboard works, the ticketing function does function, the chat is obviously quite rough. But for a proof of concept, I'd say this is pretty impressive. Like, again, we did this in 30 minutes, talking to an LLM, creating a plan in a markdown file, and then just letting it crank away. I made 0 changes to this from yesterday's session to this. So, in 30 minutes, it literally spun this up for me to, start building. So obviously this is not a fully functioning app. This is a proof of concept. So I guess the answer to the question of how quickly can you spin up a POC, probably in about 30 minutes. But the real kicker is proof of concept to an actual functioning app. That question is, vastly different, because this is going to take hours and hours, most likely weeks of, fiddling and fixing and, getting this thing actually to a point that, functions to the point where you can actually have real life users in there building and using and actually functioning within this app. I could deploy this today. It could be out there. You can use the ticket function, but this is not a working application. And we will continue on, and I'll most likely be fiddling with this in the background, because I do think this does have potential with the way that it has been built. I like the architecture. React is a very fast architecture. Postgres will handle the ticketing nicely. We'll see how difficult the chat functionality is to get that up and running. And then again, I'll be pulling all the hacker data, so like table numbers, hacker names, that'll all be secure in the Workday tenant that we use for our hacker registration. So I'm not terribly worried about the security of the data itself, because none of it's actually going to live in this application. It's going to essentially only use my Postgres database as caching, so that data will live there temporarily and then be deleted as it's used. And then authentication will also be built in. It kind of created me just a stupid admin user. What was that? Created, here it is, admin@hackathon.com with the password of password. I'll also have to create multi-factor for this, so it's not just a simple username password. But we can essentially start creating, what we need to do next, and that's where I want to leverage this new Claude Code agent feature. So I'm going to use the rest of this time on the live stream today to kind of dive into how to set up this Claude Code agent functionality, because I think that will really help with actually building this out in a effective way, is actually using an agent team versus myself just iterating over and over on the features that I'm trying to update. So let's get started getting an agent team started. Agent team is disabled by default. Let's go ahead and start it. So first, let's open up a terminal. We'll just do this right in Claude Code, because you can either, if you're using Claude Code and Cursor, you can use the extension, or you can also use just a terminal. Claude is the... Yep. Here's my terminal with Claude Code. I also have my agent over here that is the Cursor agent. I'm pretty sure you can pick the new Claude Opus, yeah, Opus 4.6, and then the Composer 1.5, that's the newest for Cursor as well. I just tell it to turn teams on. Can I turn on Claude? Back over to the left, right here. Claude Code, do its thing. See here, based on information, team is not current featured. Claude Code. Sure about that? Give it its own documentation. Doesn't seem to be able to get to the URL. If I just copy this. Oh, what is it asking here? Check for global Claude Code configuration. So it's trying to find the config that actually controls Claude Code agent teams. Found it. Excellent. All right. You might need to restart Claude Code if agent teams is the correct setting name. Yes. not the correct set. We'll need to restart. Sure. Let's just Control C and start Claude again. All right, now turned it on. We just essentially need to tell it to create a team. Create an agent team to explore this from different angles on UX, technical architecture, one step. Start with that. I am iterating on a hackathon app that and ticketing. Is Workday as a user. Create an agent to explore this from different angles. UX, technical architecture. Super curious if this is all you really need to spin up an agent team. From there, Claude creates a team with a shared task list. Spawn teammates from each perspective, has to explore the problems, synthesize findings, and clean up the team when it's finished. Terminal list, teammates, and working on. Each teammate owns split pane, choose to split. What each teammate is doing in its own individual pane, it looks like. It's just kind of going. You got 4 task agents. I imagine this is going to be quite heavy on token usage because, you know, as you're using an individual agent, it's easy to notice how much you're burning through tokens, but I have 4 agents running at the same time here, and they're all about at 50,000 tokens apiece. It's still asking me to, you know, approve different things that these agents are trying to do, which is nice. I don't want this thing to just go in YOLO mode and update everything willy-nilly. I didn't really give it any kind of specific instructions though, but each one of these agents is already burning through tokens like it's like it's their job, which it is their job, but what are the curious what they actually come up with here. I need to update Claude code too. Guess you're able to talk to these agents while they're running, but I'm curious how you do that. Fill the lead what you want. Language, it handles coordination. Shift up and down to select a teammate, type a message correctly. Cycling through my current messages. I might need to update Claude code here. Once this team is done with whatever it's trying to do, I'm gonna update my Claude code. That's about, in the 200,000 range of tokens that it used just for this little prompt of iterating on a hackathon app, chat and ticketing functionality, using Workday as a source of truth, and then create the agent team. It's even telling you which tools or how many tools it used. A lot of tools. Running for about 5 minutes. Yeah, it doesn't look like you can edit send these. It's queued. Hung up on counting Python files. It's just but all to ran a lot of stuff, but it doesn't really tell me what it did. All right. Strengths, clean design system. This is analyze the UI. Offline mode, token management. That. Bunch of bugs, memory leaks, configuration issues. So it essentially ran a bunch of analysis on my current code base. I guess is fine. I'm gonna stick this into a markdown. Because I'm going to restart. Oh, all right. To update cloud code. Cool. So I mean, super easy to start a team. If you were to put a wrapper around Claude Code, you could essentially just talk to the Claude Code, and then it would manage your agent teams. So I'll probably go down that path eventually too. But pretty excited about playing with these agent teams more. Going to use them tomorrow to kind of iterate on this hackathon app, see what we can't drum up as far as like the actual integration of users into this particular application, because the user management's working. I was able to log in with my little admin user, but I want to essentially populate a bunch of dummy users in here so I can test the chat functionality between users. So we'll fiddle with that tomorrow, and we'll see how effective using Claude Code Teams is. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys all tomorrow.